Alrighty, well, we are here. We're starting the process. We're going to see how this goes. Basically, the whole thing with this idea is that I will be reading what I feel I want to read and sharing it with you so that you can be reading along with me. Because that's what I felt from my heart. I just thought maybe instead of reading for myself all these days and hours and all these things, which I still will, obviously, at my own pace, but I thought, why not record some and post it on YouTube or something, so that others who might be interested in these titles can get it in a different way. It's not a normal audiobook version. It'll just be like a conversation. Like it won't mean, like I'll just comment as I go as well with whatever I feel, if I feel certain things. And then, so it's kind of like a conversation, but also me just reading it out loud, recording myself reading out loud to myself, but with you all. Does that make sense? Let's make sense of it anyways. So the title I'm feeling actually is a Baha'i text. The Baha'i faith. Now, a lot of you might not know about the Baha'i faith, but the Baha'i faith is another religion, or the latest religion in the timelines, that came for this time. And the manifestation or prophet is Baha'u'llah, and Abdu'l-Baha is his son. So this title is Paris Talks and Addresses given by Abdu'l-Baha in 1911. So that's the cover of the book that I have. And basically, I'm going to start reading it. And I thought I might start with the introduction, and then from there we can go along and see what happens. So I can read the introduction. In the West, the early part of the 20th century was a period of great change, of contrasting hopes and expectations. Many people were engaged in a spiritual search which led them into such diverse areas as spiritualism, healing, theosophy, and occultism, or attracted them to revivalist and new charismatic sects within mainstream religion. Coupled with this was a rise in social consciousness, which found expression in the labor movement, socialism, and the beginnings of the welfare state. At the same time, there was a growing awareness of the instability of the international political system and fear that local skirmishes could escalate into much wider conflicts. Traditional beliefs were challenged by a rise in secularism, and the emergence of a new powerful middle class whose newfound wealth was based upon the markets and raw materials provided by the colonial conquests of the 19th century. It was into such a world that Abdu'l-Baha stepped in 1911. Abdu'l-Baha was a son of Baha'u'llah, founder of the Baha'i faith. Condemned from the age of 9 to a life of imprisonment and exile at the hands of the despotic Ottoman Empire, Abdu'l-Baha was eventually released from prison as an old man. Despite suffering poor health from years of deprivation, Abdu'l-Baha undertook a series of momentous journeys to proclaim the new gospel revealed by his father. He visited Paris for 9 weeks, from 3rd October until 2nd December 1911, as part of a journey which took him to several European countries and to North America. Throughout his travels, Abdu'l-Baha attracted large audiences of people from all walks of life, eager to hear his words. Despite having received no formal education, Abdu'l-Baha spoke easily with the leaders of thought, government and church who sought his counsel, and was equally at home with the humble worksman, the forgotten poor or political radical. His reputation as a saintly figure endowed with innate wisdom quickly grew and was widely reported in the press. Unaccustomed to Western ways and ideas, Abdu'l-Baha was nevertheless able to transcend the barriers of culture and tradition and address the most vital concerns of his many different audiences. As he traveled in Europe and North America, he shared a vision, based on a unique understanding of his father's teachings of a new social order which would satisfy the deepest longings for a just, peaceful, and harmonious world. He predicted a future which, if certain trends were not nurtured and attitudes fostered, would exceed our highest expectations. At the same time, he foresaw the direction that other developments would take if not checked, and gave clear advice and admonitions on how to prevent such a fate. He instinctively responded to those who longed for deeper counsel, sharing with them a full measure of his compassionate and unconditional love, renewing in them a spirit of hope and faith. With patience, humor, and profound sympathy, he offered pearls of wisdom on the nature of happiness and spiritual growth, while highlighting the link between personal transformation and the establishment of a more equitable and benign society. Abdu'l-Baha's talks in Paris can be seen as a distillation of some of Baha'u'llah's most important teachings across a whole spectrum of issues. In the area of social reform, Abdu'l-Baha addressed such subjects as the rights of women, racism, xenophobia, and unbridled nationalism, the abolition of war, and the basis of collective security and peace between nations. His concern for the downtrodden and oppressed and the obscene disparities between rich and poor was demonstrated through countless personal acts of kindness and sacrifice, and his many statements on human rights and responsibilities challenged the social conventions of the time. His spiritual themes include answers to age-old questions. What is the nature of God, of the soul, of love? How can one acquire spiritual qualities? He discussed many subjects of particular interest to Christians, including biblical prophecy, and showed how religious truth is progressively revealed to humanity by God through intermediaries such as Christ and Baha'u'llah. Abdu'l-Baha's vision was of a world reconciled to its oneness, universal in its outlook, and united in all its glorious diversity. In the early 1900s, however, throughout Europe, people were dazzled by imperial pageantry, swept up by triumphant nationalism, and entranced by the wonders of new scientific and technological achievements. While its leaders vied to build their infernal engines of war, few paid heed to the clarion call for peace, raised by an elderly prisoner from a backwater of a disintegrating Turkish empire. Europe was on the edge of disaster, and Abdu'l-Baha knew it, but it has taken the collective suffering of 2 world wars, followed by the global disintegration of political, social, and religious systems, to reveal the true significance of his words. Almost a century later, the Paris talks of Abdu'l-Baha still have important contributions to make to our current thinking. They provide us with new, more appropriate ways of looking at our world, free of prejudice, liberated from the paralyzing contradictions of the past, seeing all people as members of the same human family. They illuminate the potential for good in human nature, showing all religions as part of a chain of guidance from God, stretching from the past into the far distant future, viewing religion as a source of unity rather than division, seeing that personal salvation is intimately linked to the salvation of the whole world through the establishment of a new social order. Abdu'l-Baha's advice is not only spiritually uplifting, but practical and well suited to people more concerned perhaps with the how rather than the why. He provides strategies that enable people to work together in unity, strategies springing directly from the teachings of Baha'u'llah, and shows how to apply and translate those spiritual teachings into daily action. His emphasis on the need to discover religious and spiritual truth for oneself rather than to rely on the ideas of others is of vital importance to one's sense of self and integrity, so much sought after today. Perhaps most importantly of all, Abdu'l-Baha did not simply preach virtue, but demonstrated and lived it. As we look ahead to the critical fortunes of our small planet, we find in the example of Abdu'l-Baha not only a new ethos, a new morality for all the world, but also a true model for the way we can live our lives. Therein lies the abiding power of his teachings. Paris Talks, the first publication of Abdu'l-Baha's talks given in the West, will thus remain of enduring value. That Abdu'l-Baha's guidance has not yet been universally implemented is perhaps more reason to read his words and consider their implications for our future. You know, if that was too fast as well, you can definitely slow it down. You can go back and re-listen to it. But I will say that I've grown up in a Baha'i family, Persian Baha'i family, where my dad migrated from Iran. And then, well, its history, it was called Persia, but renamed to Iran. When I think it was when the Islamic regime came in, or maybe a little bit before that. I'm not too sure about that one, but we can look into that. Good old Google can tell us that. But for now, these are my thoughts. So yeah, basically, you know, my dad migrated first. He fled. It was quite a story, but he escaped his own country just so he could get over here. And you know, without language, without belongings, without any of those things, and create a life, bring my mum over, and then, you know, have us, me and my brother, and start a family. So, you know, we could have a chance, you know, because being Baha'i back in Iran then, you know, there's a lot of persecutions, a lot of death, a lot of killings. Baha'is were banned from businesses, couldn't work, couldn't study, couldn't, you know, do the usual things unless, you know, yeah, it's just messy, and it's going on now anyways. But you know, this isn't about that, this space, but I just wanted to, you know, what came up for me reading this is that I'm very grateful to have grown up in, you know, within the Baha'i faith. And what I love about the Baha'i faith though is that age of maturity is 15. So, you know, and one thing that it, you know, it was written here as well, is that one of the things, the main emphasis of Baha'u'llah's teachings is that it's the discovery of the truth for yourself. You know, so it's really about, yeah, discovering religious and spiritual truth for oneself rather than relying on what others say, you know. Or even if I've grown up in the Baha'i faith, you have up until age 15 where you can formally say, yes, I want to be a Baha'i, or you're okay. And when you say, yes, I want to be a Baha'i, as in, like, you know, the formal signing and reaffirmation of wanting to be in the Baha'i community formally, like written and signed, and it's a different process. But otherwise, you can, you know, you don't have to be a Baha'i to practice or follow. And, you know, just like I'm not, you know, I'm not, I don't say I'm a Buddhist, I don't say I'm a Christian or anything like that, but I love and like, you know, reading all of the histories and the religions and the teachings and everything that has been shared, because it has progressively been shared over time. And the message of all of these manifestations throughout history is love, you know. But people and power and ego and all these things have changed religion to become some sort of, like, yeah, just not great, you know, like a source of division, essentially. So that's not what we want, right? And especially through Baha'u'llah's teachings, which my intention is just to share, just to share, because I'm so glad I did grow up in it. And over these past few years I've been reading so many of like Buddhist writings, Christian writings, and it's so interesting just to observe the different languages that these manifestations and teachers have brought to us, and philosophers. Like I read a lot of different content, even Marcus Aurelius, and this about Stoicism, and yeah, there's a lot of beautiful things out there. Eckhart Tolle, his teachings, and yes, he's a big one in my spiritual process as well, big one. So there's a lot, basically. I'm going to leave it here for now because I can keep talking about it, but I want to do it in segments so it doesn't become too long. And some of them might be long, as in these videos, but and also I'm very open to comments, like if this is a space that you would like to be part of, and it's content that you're interested in, then you can tell me what's easier. Like, would you prefer it in little segments, or sometimes I do longer ones in one bout, like a audio, like a podcast type thing, Anyways, I think I'll just go with it regardless. There's no right or wrong with this process. It's just me starting out in my room, and yeah, just really, like, I was, I've been reading so much for myself that all of a sudden I was like, let me try this. Let me try reading out and just posting it, and whoever is also feeling the content can read it with me, and we're kind of like doing a book study indirectly. But yeah. How cool, huh? Very good. So look, I was actually going to jump straight to where I was up to, but I think I might just start with part 1 again and read it out loud and do it in sections, and as thoughts arise. I think that would be good. So next up will be part 1. But I will say that if any thoughts come up, I'm so open to just comment. Even if I don't respond, you can share, and if anyone's interested in it becoming more of an intimate space, then I can create a group and create a little community for us, as time goes on. But anyway, those are more futuristic type thoughts. For now, it's very simple. I just want to read out loud and bring togetherness in this, because there is a lot of oppression and a lot of grief around the world. And I think this is from, his talks are from 1911. I mean, these things, there's always duality in the world, always will be, war and peace, love and hate, and oppression and suppression, and all these things, but then also like abundance and love. And yeah, so look, I'm here for it, I'm really here for it. And I just I think it's really important. One thing that I love with like what he's saying over here is that Abdu'l-Baha's advice, Baha'u'llah's son, is not only spiritually uplifting but practical, and it's more suited for the people who are concerned more with the how. In this day and age, they can implement things that is going to help rather than the why. But like their strategies, and it might not suit everyone, but the whole intention, or because there's so many things out there, so many ways of being and living, and and my whole thing is like, how can we keep it as simple as possible? But I love reading materials and then reflecting on that, and then extracting what resonates with me and leaving what doesn't. I think that's one thing. That's why I don't like really call myself like a full, like, I'm Baha'i technically, but that's not it, like I'm just one, and I just am, like I've read and explored and gone on different pilgrimages and things like that, where I've extracted so many different modalities and practices, spiritual practices and everything, to suit me and who I am and my pace and, you know, what resonates with me, you know, because I don't want to just stick to one set of rules or guidelines just because that's what's been written for me or told that I have to do it a certain way, otherwise it's not, you know, a thing, or it's not, because that's not the case. Like, it's just me, it's between me and God or source, universe, whatever you like to call it, higher consciousness. Like, it's just, I will use God because it's more intimate, and God just explains something bigger than us out there, you know. Yeah, source of creation and love. That's what I feel. And, you know, well, thank you so much for being here with me for the first session together, and I'm really excited to continue. Oh, and also this is a picture of Abdu'l-Baha, just so you can see as well. Abdu'l-Baha, 1844 to 1921, photograph taken at a studio in Paris. So yeah, excited to go on this journey with you. And, you know, yeah, being online is something, you know, because they're always going to be prone to comments and disagreements and this and that. But you know what I know in my heart and in my body is, I know what I'm doing this for, and I've kept it at bay for so long because I don't want to be seen, or I'd rather just do it directly in person rather than be another thing online. But what I realize is that it is ease of access, and, you know, it is it's just easy to reach whoever wants to be reached, and creating that opportunity for that. And I think as I, you know, progress through my own process of growth, I realize that I'm not doing it for the attention or the likes or the this or the that. It's not so much for the success of it, whatever that means. It's more for the presence of me, and knowing that I just want to bring people together and to learn and grow together and see how we can be a source of light in any place of darkness or sadness or grief. You know, how can we be that purity, and how can we bring that love and togetherness, and yeah, just, you know, bring that joy. I mean, I'm just like a bundle of like random joy here and there, and it can be a bit weird and eccentric or whatever you call it, but that's what I am. So let's do it. Alrighty, my dears, well, I'll leave it there. Thank you too much, and we'll talk soon, eh?